What's up, everybody? Thanks for tuning in to another episode of Break the Silence. I'm your host, Cyborg. We just watched Game 1 of the NBA Finals between the Boston Celtics and the Golden State Warriors, in which the Boston Celtics won 120-108 was your final score. The game just ended a couple minutes ago, so I'm still blood pressure high. I'm sweaty. My face is red. I feel like I just got a bad sunburn, which I know a lot about as a redhead. But let's get straight into the game, and I think where we need to start is at the end. The Boston Celtics won this game because of potentially the best shooting quarter I've ever seen in an NBA Finals, where they started the quarter 7 of 7 from three-point range, which is unheard of. You rarely see a team, and it wasn't just one guy. You saw the entire team just catch fire and absolutely bury the Golden State Warriors, who went into the quarter with a 12-point lead, I believe. Yeah, 12-point lead. So as a Celtics fan, you were feeling a little like you were having reminders of Game 1s against the Miami Heat and the Milwaukee Bucks that they let get away from them. But tonight's game went a little different because of the absolute heat stroke that the Celtics had from the three-point line that I really can't explain. And to be honest, that's why NBA games are so hard to predict, because one team can get so hot from the three-point line or shooting the basketball that really doesn't matter who's the better team. On any given night, you can have the Orlando Magic just suddenly just get crazy hot and take down a great team. And that's why the Celtics ended up winning tonight. In the fourth quarter, they won that quarter 40-16, that's unbelievable. They said it was the biggest discrepancy ever in an NBA Finals quarter, and a lot of guys contributed. You started out that quarter, and Jaylen Brown got hot, scored a quick 8 straight points to kind of bring the Celtics back into the game, get them back in the flow, make them feel like they had a chance again. And then Derek White and Al Horford kind of closed the deal there, and then you had a 3 or 2 thrown in by Pritchard and Smart. But Al Horford was truly... Actually, Horford and White were truly the heroes, in my opinion, of this game. Al Horford had 26 points. He hit 6 3-pointers, which they said is the most threes in a finals debut in NBA history, which is pretty impressive for a man so late into his career, might retire after this year. Derek White hit 5 threes. And I just want to take you back to the fact that the Celtics gave up a 2028 draft pick for Derek White. And they gave up a couple picks and Kemba Walker to get Al Horford. Brad Stevens deserves so much credit for this roster, and it won Game 1 of the Finals for him tonight. The Golden State Warriors went inexplicably cold. Now, it's very hard to keep up the way you were playing when you're watching the other team just go berserk from the three-point line. Definitely is difficult. Steph Curry started this game in the first quarter at 24 points and one of the greatest displays of shooting by an individual you're ever going to see. But in the fourth quarter, kind of went cold and didn't contribute as much. And you saw guys start to tighten up on the Warriors, whereas the Celtics, it kind of felt like they were playing with house money. They were just playing a little looser and really got going there. I want to transition to a little more of my analysis of the game as a whole, because I think the fourth quarter, to me, is not worth evaluating as far as how the rest of the series is going to go, because I don't think the Celtics are going to shoot that. I mean, it's nearly impossible that they're going to shoot that way again. But let's break down some of the other things that I noticed throughout the game. In the first quarter, the Celtics came out playing potentially the dumbest brand of basketball I've ever watched in my entire life. And Golden State completely capitalized on it when Steph Curry was just shooting lights out. He had 24 points, like I had said, in the first quarter. But the problem was the Celtics were playing, when they were playing Horford and Rob on the court at the same time, they were playing a drop coverage to where Draymond was coming up, setting the screen, the big man would drop, and Steph comes off of it and shoots a butt-naked three. Now, and what's interesting is you heard Marcus Smart in the huddle, which I can't believe they showed on live TV because usually they don't show as much strategy stuff. He said, this is not the Miami Heat. We have to get up on that. Drop coverage works when Jimmy Butler's the guy who's coming off that screen and he's not really a threat from the three-point line, so the drop coverage kind of stops him from maybe getting to that mid-range spot that he feels more comfortable. But Steph Curry, if you give that man an open three, is unbelievable the way he shoots the basketball. So the Celtics in the first quarter gave him many opportunities at just wide open, clean looks, and Steph Curry doesn't miss those. Other guys in the NBA, and honestly, this is the most fascinating thing about professional basketball players to me, that you have one NBA player in Steph Curry that can be double teamed, it can throw up a 30-footer and drill it. And you got other guys in the NBA that their whole job is to sit in the corner and just hit threes. And sometimes they can't do it. And I'm not saying shooting is easy, but if your one job is to sit in the corner and shoot wide open threes, the fact that one man is so much better at shooting than everyone else is truly a testament to how talented Steph Curry is. And the thing you notice about Steph, not only just the three-point shooting and his touch being so smooth, but when he drives to the basket, he hit a 16-foot floater tonight while being defended from his right side, hit like a 16-foot floater. And then he did a layup where he, wasn't really a finger roll because it was a little far from the rim, but almost, kind of a finger roll-ish form. And from like 4 feet out, threw it way up in the air and just sunk it. And the way that the ball must feel in his hands is not the way that the ball feels in the rest of our hands. His ability to put the ball exactly where he envisions it to go is truly something that I don't think we see from any other player. It's at a level that we don't see from other players. We have other great three-point shooters, but Steph's ability from anywhere on the court it's just different. It's just different, and Steph was unbelievable tonight, but he did really cool off. For the last 3 quarters, the Celtics then went away from their drop coverage and started blitzing Steph Curry, which if you listen in the last video, that's what I thought the Celtics would do. They would start blitzing Steph, which means when they set that screen, both of those guys kind of crowd Steph to where he has to pass to the roller, and then from that point, the Celtics are in rotational defense. So it kind of takes Steph... It doesn't take him out of the game, but it makes it way tougher on him, which is really all you can do against Steph Curry. Just make it as tough as possible, and if he hits the ridiculous shots, you live with it. But you cannot give Steph Curry wide open threes or he will bury you. The thing that was interesting about tonight's game is after the first quarter, the Celtics were down 4 points, and I was texting some people and was like, the fact that Steph Curry scored 24 and the Celtics are only down 4 really is remarkable. And that was kind of the theme of the game, where the Celtics then played a great second quarter and had a 2-point lead going into halftime. And both offenses were really shooting at a high level. We had the most threes in an NBA game in history. And then in the third quarter, the Celtics were the second best team in the third quarter during the regular season. The problem is the Warriors were the first best team. And the Warriors beat the brakes off the Celtics in the third quarter, beat them by 14, I believe, because the Celtics had a 2-point lead and were down by 12 going into the fourth quarter. So the Warriors are such a threat in the third quarter. Now, my big thought with how the Celtics and what we're going to see is a lot of adjustments in game 2, because in game 1, you're kind of feeling these teams out. And like I had mentioned in my pre-series analysis, is that these teams don't play each other all that much. So you're not all that familiar with each other. So the first few games is kind of going to be a feeling out process to see what works, what doesn't work, things of that nature. I love Robert Williams as a Celtics fan. He might be my second favorite Celtic. He might be unplayable in this series, to be honest with you. He was not rebounding at a level good enough to justify the drop coverage that you're forced to play with him on the court. He almost... It's the problem with a lot of centers in today's NBA, and why a guy like Rudy Gobert can be the defensive player of the year, but then in some matchups almost looks unplayable because of how different the NBA is today with how talented guys are shooting the basketball. And Robert Williams is not quite as good as Rudy Gobert, but you have some similarities as far as like elite rim protection, shot blocking, timing, things like that. But Rob just can't guard Steph Curry. And then they tried to switch on him, and Steph just gets an easy little mid-ranger on that one. So I think you're going to have to go to the lineup. And honestly, it worked beautiful tonight because Derek White was shooting the lights out. But Al Horford at the 5, Tatum 4, Brown, Smart, Derek White. You have Pritchard and Grant Williams play their minutes. You cannot play Daniel Tice in this series. And I swear if he comes back in, I'm going to lose my mind. He was awful tonight. And that's who... I just don't think Daniel Tice is worthy of playing in an NBA game. No offense. So tonight the Celtics hit 21 threes. The Warriors hit 19. And the interesting thing, the question is, can either team replicate this? And so you have to kind of say, well, no, I don't think the Celtics are going to shoot 7 of 7 from 3 in the fourth quarter. So the Warriors will win next game. But that's not how basketball math works, because what I kept hearing after the Celtics-Nets game 1 is that KD played the worst playoff game of his career, and they lost on a buzzer-beater layup. So math shows if Kevin Durant's just a touch better, they win that game. But unfortunately, that's just not the way it works. So the Celtics might shoot worse from 3 next game, but they also might do something else better. They might rebound better. They might get to loose balls. They might get to the free throw line more. Or they get buried, you know? So it's not necessarily that if the Celtics don't shoot like this, they're not going to win a game, things of that nature. Now, the interesting thing is Jayson Tatum played the worst playoff game of his career, where, and the stats, well, shot the worst he's ever shot in his career. The worst he had shot up to this point was in 2019. He shot 20% from the field. I believe it was against Milwaukee. Tonight he was 3 of 17, which is like, what is that, 18%? Something just horrible. But he did have 13 assists. So Tatum was doing other things to impact the game, even though he wasn't shooting at a high level. So what I am interested to see in the next game is the Celtics had great success in the second, third, and fourth quarter. Not third as a team, but like guarding Steph Curry in the second, third, and fourth quarters. He only scored 10 points the rest of the game past the first quarter. So whatever the Celtics switch to, I think is going to be what they try to do coming out next game. But we'll see what the Warriors' adjustment is. Draymond Green is such an offensive liability, it's unbelievable. Jordan Poole is a defensive liability, so it's kind of hard to play him. And Klay Thompson, to me, just doesn't look the same as he used to. Now, rebounding was a big issue for the Celtics most of this game until the fourth quarter, when the Warriors just started missing everything. So, game 1 is in the books. The Celtics won it. I picked the Warriors in 7. As a Celtics fan, I'm thrilled. As a predictor of games, not a great start, but I think we're going to see a huge bounce back game from the Warriors in game 2. And honestly, if they don't, the series might be over. And usually when you're playing with your back against the wall like that, you tend to play better. So we'll see the adjustments. That's what's so interesting about these playoff series. is that the adjustments that you get to watch both coaches make as they get used to each other. The Celtics, for me, like I said, you place a little smaller. Rob only sees the floor in stretches, and you blitz Steph every time. You do not let him get any wide open looks. It cannot happen. Whereas I find the Warriors, Kevon Looney had good success, and Andrew Wiggins going down what's the word I'm looking for? Down the lane, basically, was having good success scoring there. In the fourth quarter, they kind of went away from some of those things. So we'll see going into the next game. I'm super pumped. If you don't mind taking a second, liking and subscribing the video, we're going to give our analysis after every game. I'm excited for the rest of this. Hope you guys are too. Cyborg out.